Behind the buddy cop laughs and Chicago car chases lies a production filled with destroyed vehicles, rejected superstars, groundbreaking representation battles, hilariously obvious fake snow in September, and a director who doubled as his own cinematographer to create one of the 80s most underrated action comedies. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Running Scared, 1986. Fact 1. Originally written for Hollywood legends. Before Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines ever cracked wise as Chicago cops dreaming of Key West retirement, Running Scared was a completely different movie intended for two of Hollywood's biggest stars. The original script was written with Gene Hackman and Paul Newman in mind, envisioning them as a pair of elderly New York City police officers who wanted to hang up their badges for good. This was the version that MGM Studios initially brought to director Peter Hyams after his success with the science fiction film 2010, The Year We Make Contact in 1984. But Hyams had a different vision entirely. On the television series The Directors, he explained that when MGM approached him with a retirement cop script, he suggested a radical reimagining. Instead of two old cops in New York who retire, Hyams pitched the idea of two young Chicago cops who decide not to retire. MGM agreed to his changes, which transformed everything about the project from the characters' ages and energy to the entire city setting and tone. This wasn't just a minor tweak to the script. By making the characters younger, Hyams opened up possibilities for unconventional casting that would have been impossible with established dramatic heavyweights like Newman and Hackman. He wanted actors who could bring fresh energy to a genre that was already crowded with cop movies in the mid-1980s. The age change also allowed for different story dynamics, including the characters' conflicted feelings about retirement when they still had their whole lives ahead of them, rather than simply aging out of the job. Hyams knew he had to go with unorthodox choices to make the film stand out. And that decision ultimately led him to a comedian and a tap dancer rather than traditional action stars, completely reshaping what Running Scared would become. Fact 2. Tom Selleck and John Travolta turned it down. Once director Peter Hyams had reimagined Running Scared for younger actors, the search began for the perfect buddy cop duo, but the film's eventual stars were far from the first choices considered. Tom Selleck and John Travolta were both offered the roles of Ray Hughes and Danny Costanzo, but neither actor ended up taking the job for very different reasons. Tom Selleck was riding high on the success of his television series Magnum P.I., which had been running since 1980 and made him one of the most recognizable faces on TV. When Running Scared came calling in the mid-1980s, Selleck simply couldn't break away from his television commitments. The show's demanding production schedule meant he was locked into filming obligations that would have made it impossible to take on a leading film role at that time. This wasn't the first time Selleck had to pass on a major movie opportunity because of Magnum P.I., and it wouldn't be the last. John Travolta's situation was entirely different and perhaps more intriguing. By the mid-1980s, Travolta was navigating a complicated phase in his career, trying to choose projects carefully after the massive success of Saturday Night Fever and Grease earlier in the decade. When Running Scared was offered to him, it wasn't Travolta himself who declined, but rather his powerful agent Michael Ovitz. Ovitz, who was one of the most influential agents in Hollywood at the time, felt strongly that the project simply wasn't right for Travolta and advised him to pass on it. With both Selleck and Travolta out of the picture, Hyams continued his search for unconventional actors who could bring something fresh to the buddy cop formula, eventually finding his perfect pairing in two entertainers from very different backgrounds. Fact 3. Crystal's first leading film role. By 1986, Billy Crystal was already one of the most recognizable comedians in America, but Running Scared represented a major milestone in his career that many people don't realize. Despite being a household name thanks to his work on television, this buddy cop action comedy marked the very first time Crystal had carried a film as a leading man. Crystal's path to stardom had been built primarily through television success. He first gained widespread recognition playing Jody Dallas, one of the first openly gay characters on American television, in the sitcom Soap, which ran from 1977 to 1981. After Soap ended, he continued building his comedy career through stand-up performances and television appearances. Then, in 1984, he became a regular cast member on Saturday Night Live, where his impression of Fernando Lamas with the catchphrase, "You look marvelous," became hugely popular with audiences and turned him into an even bigger star. But film roles had eluded him up to that point, or at least leading roles had. Crystal had appeared in smaller parts and supporting roles, but no studio had given him the chance to headline a major motion picture. Running Scared changed that, putting Crystal front and center alongside Gregory Hines in a big-budget action comedy from MGM Studios. The role required Crystal to do more than just deliver funny lines. He had to handle action sequences, dramatic moments, and carry long stretches of the film on his chemistry with his co-star. The gamble paid off for both Crystal and the studio. Running Scared earned over $38 million at the box office and proved that Crystal could be a movie star, not just a television personality. This success opened the door for his legendary film career in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Fact 4. 3 car suspensions destroyed. During one scene, Running Scared features one of the most memorable and unusual chase scenes in 1980s action cinema, where the heroes pursue a drug dealer's limousine not on regular streets but along Chicago's elevated train tracks. What audiences see on screen as a thrilling 4-minute sequence came at a brutal cost to the production vehicles, with the suspension systems of 3 Chevrolet Impalas being completely destroyed during the filming process. The elevated train chase, which runs from O'Hare Airport to the Loop on Chicago's famous L tracks, required driving actual cars on railway platforms that were never designed for automobile traffic. Director Peter Hyams later stated that during the shooting of this sequence, several suspensions and axles broke under the extreme stress. The L tracks are built with steel beams, wooden ties, and metal rails that create an incredibly rough and unforgiving surface for any vehicle not specifically designed to run on them. The production needed multiple taxicabs and limousines on standby because the damage was so severe and unpredictable. According to Hyams, they went through 2 or 3 limousines and taxicabs just to complete the chase sequence. The filming took place over 6 consecutive Sundays to minimize disruption to Chicago's public transportation system, and each day brought new mechanical challenges as the vehicles took punishment from the rails. The scene also required the cars to be driven slowly and then sped up in post-production to create the illusion of a high-speed chase, because attempting to drive at actual chase speeds on the L tracks would have been impossibly dangerous. Even at reduced speeds, the constant jarring and impact from the uneven railway surface was enough to render 3 Chevy Impalas mechanically unusable by the time filming wrapped. Fact 5. The director was also the cinematographer. Peter Hyams belongs to an extremely exclusive club in Hollywood, as one of the very few filmmakers who serves as both director and cinematographer on their own films. For Running Scared, Hyams pulled this remarkable double duty, personally handling the camera work and lighting decisions while also directing the actors and managing every other aspect of the production. This dual role is exceptionally rare in major studio filmmaking because directing and cinematography are both enormously demanding jobs that typically require complete focus and attention. Most directors work closely with a separate director of photography who translates the director's vision into specific camera angles, lighting setups, and visual compositions. But Hyams chose to do both jobs himself, which meant he had total control over the film's look from conception to execution. The advantage of this approach is that Running Scared's visual style comes from a single, unified vision, rather than requiring collaboration and compromise between 2 different creative minds. Hyams could make instant decisions about camera placement, lighting, and shot composition without needing to explain his intentions to another person or wait for someone else to set up the equipment. This allowed for a more organic and responsive filming process where visual ideas could be tested and adjusted on the fly. Hyams had developed a distinctive visual signature throughout his career, including his use of smoke in interior scenes to diffuse background light and his bold application of high-contrast industrial lighting. In Running Scared, you can see this in scenes like the stark red lighting, when the cops burst in on Snake and Julio, or the use of the actual functional lighting during the climactic shootout. The film benefits from Hyam's ability to instantly understand both the dramatic needs of a scene and the technical requirements to capture it on camera. Fact 6. Hilariously fake. September's Snow Running Scared is set during the Christmas season in Chicago, with the story taking place during one of the coldest times of year in one of America's coldest major cities. However, filming actually took place in September of 1985, and the production's attempts to create a winter wonderland resulted in some of the most obviously fake snow ever captured on film. The crew used foam to simulate snow throughout the outdoor Chicago scenes, but the application was haphazard at best. If you pay attention while watching the film, you'll notice the fake snow was blown across streets, piled on vehicles, and scattered on various structures. But when you look at the buildings in the background of most shots, the rooftops are completely clear with no snow or icicles present at all. This creates a bizarre visual where the ground level appears to be experiencing a snowstorm while everything above street level remains untouched. Even more telling is the opening scene where Ray and Danny meet in a Chicago park at Christmas time. Despite the fact that it's supposed to be December in Chicago, where temperatures regularly drop below freezing and trees are bare, all of the trees in the park are loaded with full green leaves. Anyone who has spent time in Chicago during winter knows this is absolutely impossible, as the city's harsh climate strips trees completely bare by late autumn. Film critic Roger Ebert had a field day with this in his review, noting the hilariously inept use of fake movie snow, and joking that Chicago must be the only city in which snow falls from Oak Park instead of from the sky, given how many vertical surfaces were plastered with the white foam while the ground remained suspiciously clear. Fact 7. A filming accident lost an entire day's work. The elevated train chase sequence was already one of the most challenging parts of the production, but a serious accident during filming made it even more difficult and costly. During one take on the El Wallace tracks, the camera truck that was following behind the action was unable to stop in time and crashed directly into the taxicab that had just come to a halt, creating a disaster that cost the production dearly. The crash destroyed expensive camera equipment that was mounted on the truck, which was bad enough on its own. But the real devastating loss came when the impact caused an entire day's worth of exposed film to spill out onto the pavement below the elevated tracks. In the days before digital filming, movies were shot on physical film stock that had to be carefully protected and processed. Once that film was exposed to light or damaged, there was no way to recover the footage. Everything they had filmed that day was completely lost. This meant the cast and crew had to return to reshoot all of the sequences they had captured before the accident, effectively doubling the time and resources needed for that portion of the chase. The accident happened because the elevated railway tracks created such difficult and unpredictable driving conditions that even the experienced stunt drivers and camera operators couldn't always maintain perfect control of their vehicles. The production had already planned to film the chase over 6 consecutive Sundays to minimize disruption to Chicago's public transportation system, but the accident added even more complexity to an already demanding schedule. The crew had to coordinate with city officials to get additional filming time and redo all the lost work while still meeting their deadline. Fact 8. Gregory Hines fought for groundbreaking representation. Gregory Hines didn't just accept the role of Ray Hughes in Running Scared. He actively and persistently campaigned for it because he recognized the opportunity to break important ground in how black characters were portrayed in Hollywood buddy cop films. Hines was proud that the movie would feature what he called a black guy with sex scenes, deliberately challenging the industry norm where black sidekick characters were stripped of any romantic or sexual dimension compared to their white counterparts. In 1987, Hines gave an interview where he explained his thinking about role selection, saying he often looked for roles that were written for white actors because they offered greater scope and dynamics. Speaking specifically about Running Scared, he said he enjoyed that his character had sex scenes because usually the black guy has no sexuality at all. This was a direct reference to a troubling pattern in 80s action movies where black actors playing supporting roles were often portrayed as lacking any romantic life or personal relationships beyond their partnership with the white lead character. What made Running Scared different was that Hines and Billy Crystal were written as true equals, with both characters having romantic storylines and personal lives that were given equal weight in the narrative. Hines' character Ray Hughes wasn't just the funny sidekick or the action muscle. He was a fully developed person with his own relationships, desires, and personal journey throughout the film. Hines worked hard to secure this role precisely because he understood its significance in changing how black actors could be portrayed in mainstream action comedies, and his performance helped pave the way for more equitable representation in the buddy cop genre. Fact 9. Police car misspelled Chicao Police. In the middle of all the action and expensive stunts, Running Scared features a hilariously embarrassing continuity error that somehow made it all the way through filming, editing, and into the final cut of the movie. During a scene when Ray Hughes and Danny Costanzo call for backup and jump into a police car, eagle-eyed viewers can spot that the vehicle has Chicao Police painted on its doors instead of the correct spelling of Chicago Police. This kind of mistake is particularly amusing because it appears on an official-looking prop that would have required someone to actually paint or apply the lettering to the car doors. Multiple people would have had to look at this vehicle during preparation, filming, and post-production without anyone catching the error. The prop department would have created it, the director and cinematographer would have filmed it, and the editors would have reviewed the footage, yet the misspelled word sailed through every checkpoint. The typo is missing the letter G in Chicago, turning the city's name into the nonsensical Chicao. It's the kind of mistake that makes you wonder if it was done by someone who was rushing through their work, or perhaps by a crew member who wasn't familiar with the city's spelling. What makes it even funnier is that the entire movie is set in Chicago, and the city's name appears correctly in dozens of other places throughout the film, making this one random misspelled police car stand out as an oddity. The error has become a favorite discovery for fans who enjoy spotting movie mistakes, and it serves as a reminder that even big-budget Hollywood productions with major studios behind them can let obvious errors slip through the cracks. Fact 10. Multiple sequel scripts, all rejected. Running Scared earned over $38 million at the box office and received praise for the chemistry between Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines, making it seem like a natural candidate for a sequel. The studio certainly thought so, as they developed a follow-up film with the working title Still Running and commissioned multiple different screenwriters to take a crack at creating a worthy continuation of the story. However, despite the financial success and the studio's enthusiasm, a sequel never materialized because both Crystal and Hines had the same reaction to every script they were presented with. The two actors turned down each and every version of Still Running because they genuinely didn't believe any of the scripts were strong enough to warrant making another movie. They had standards for what a sequel should be and refused to move forward with a project just for the sake of cashing in on the original's success. This decision speaks to the integrity of both actors and their respect for the material that had launched Crystal's film career and given Hines a groundbreaking role. They could have easily taken the money and made a mediocre follow-up that traded on audience goodwill from the first film, which was a common practice in the 1980s when successful action comedies often spawned multiple sequels of declining quality. Instead, Crystal and Hines held firm in their belief that a sequel should only exist if it could match or exceed the quality of the original. The fact that multiple writers tried and failed to create a script that satisfied both actors suggests just how difficult it is to recapture the magic of a successful buddy cop comedy, even when you have the same stars willing to return. Fact 11. Sweet Freedom made Michael McDonald a movie star. The Running Scared soundtrack became a commercial success, largely thanks to one song that perfectly captured the spirit of the film's most memorable sequence. Legendary songwriter and producer Rod Temperton wrote Sweet Freedom specifically for Michael McDonald to perform over the iconic Key West vacation montage, where Ray and Danny roller skate, ride mopeds, fish, and enjoy life away from the cold Chicago streets. Temperton had been working overtime on the Running Scared soundtrack, writing or co-writing 6 of the 9 songs that would appear in the film. He needed a vocalist for Sweet Freedom and reached out to Michael McDonald, who was already known for his smooth voice from his work with the Doobie Brothers and his solo career. The song was crafted specifically to accompany what would become one of the most purely entertaining movie montages of the 1980s. Sweet Freedom became a massive hit, climbing all the way to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart in 1986. The song's success helped the entire Running Scared soundtrack album sell well and produced multiple top 15 hits. What made the promotion even more interesting was the music video for Sweet Freedom, which featured Michael McDonald performing in a crowded bar while extensive clips from Running Scared played throughout. Both Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines appeared in the music video alongside McDonald, creating a unique crossover between the film and its soundtrack. The song became so associated with the film that it was later included on McDonald's compilation album titled Sweet Freedom, and it remains his last top 10 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 to this day. Fact 12. Nick Kershaw's song was mysteriously rejected. While Rod Temperton was busy creating most of the Running Scared soundtrack, British pop singer Nick Kershaw also got involved with the project and wrote a song specifically for the film. What makes this story particularly strange is that Kershaw titled his composition Running Scared, giving it the exact same name as the movie itself, which would have made it a perfect fit as either the title track or a major promotional single. Kershaw was a successful artist in the mid-1980s, known for hits like Wouldn't It Be Good and The Riddle, so having him contribute to the soundtrack would have been a significant addition. He put in the work to create an original song tailored for the film, presumably hoping it would be featured prominently and help promote both the movie and his own music career. However, MCA Records reviewed Kershaw's Running Scared and made the decision to reject it. The reasons for this rejection have never been publicly explained, leaving it as one of those mysterious Hollywood decisions that doesn't seem to make much sense from the outside. You would think that having a song with the movie's exact title written by a popular British artist would be an obvious choice for inclusion on the soundtrack album. Instead, Kershaw's song was dismissed and never appeared in the film or on the official soundtrack release. He eventually included Running Scared on his 1986 album Radio Musicola, but it never achieved the exposure or success it might have gained from being associated with a major Hollywood film. The song exists as a curious piece of trivia about what might have been if MCA Records had made a different choice. Fact 13. Crystal's improvisation required Hines's solid presence. Billy Crystal came to Running Scared with a well-earned reputation as a brilliant improviser from his years on Saturday Night Live and in stand-up comedy, and director Peter Hyams specifically valued this skill when casting him. Crystal contributed what the production team affectionately called little pearls to the script, improvising jokes, reactions, and bits of dialogue that weren't in the original screenplay and adding spontaneous humor throughout the film. However, Crystal himself was quick to acknowledge that his improvisational freedom only worked because of Gregory Hines' performance as his partner. Crystal noted that his risky improvisations were only possible due to Hines' solid presence and dependability as an actor. What this means in practical terms is that improvisation in a two-person scene is incredibly difficult unless both actors are completely in sync and one of them provides a stable foundation for the other to play against. Hines had to stay grounded and react naturally to whatever Crystal threw at him, even when those moments weren't rehearsed or scripted. He needed to keep his character consistent and believable while also being flexible enough to roll with Crystal's spontaneous choices. This requires enormous skill and generosity as a performer because it means sometimes serving as the straight man or anchor point rather than getting to do the flashy improvisational work yourself. The chemistry between them worked so well because they had complementary strengths. Crystal brought unpredictable energy and comedic spontaneity, while Hines provided the steady, reliable presence that made those improvisations feel natural rather than forced. Their partnership on screen looked effortless, but it was built on Hines' ability to create a safe space where Crystal could take creative risks without derailing scenes. Fact 14, filmed at Chicago's most spectacular building. The climactic shootout of Running Scared takes place inside one of Chicago's most architecturally distinctive and visually stunning buildings, the James R. Thompson Center, which was known at the time of filming as the State of Illinois Center. This massive government building features a soaring glass atrium that rises 17 stories high, with exposed glass elevators, multiple levels of walkways, and a dramatic open design that made it perfect for an action sequence. Director Peter Hyams dubbed this finale "High Noon in a Glass House," and the location provided spectacular opportunities for vertical action sequences. The scene features Gregory Hines' character lowering himself on a cable down through the vast rotunda from the ceiling while firing a weapon, taking full advantage of the building's dramatic height and open spaces. The glass elevators also played an important plot point in the sequence, adding another layer of visual interest to the action. However, filming inside an active government building came with strict limitations and requirements. The production crew had only 9 evenings within 12-hour windows to complete all their filming at the Thompson Center. This tight schedule meant they had to work efficiently and precisely, shooting the entire climactic sequence in just over a week of night shoots. Adding to the challenge was the requirement that they restore the building to its original condition after each night of filming. The action sequences involved breaking glass, damaging decorative poinsettias that were part of the building's holiday decorations, and creating general chaos throughout the atrium. Every night after filming wrapped, the crew had to clean up broken glass and replace mangled plants before the building opened for government business the next morning. Fact 15, released 1 year before Lethal Weapon. When people think about the buddy cop movies that defined the 1980s, Lethal Weapon almost always tops the list as the film that set the template for the genre. However, Running Scared actually hit theaters on June 27, 1986, a full year before Lethal Weapon arrived in March of 1987, making it a forgotten pioneer that helped pave the way for the action comedy wave that would dominate the rest of the decade. Running Scared came out during a transitional moment in the buddy cop genre, arriving after the massive success of Beverly Hills Cop in 1984 and 48 Hours in 1982, but before Lethal Weapon would crystallize many of the elements that became standard in these films. It featured 2 partners with strong chemistry, mixed intense action with comedy, and balanced dramatic moments with lighter scenes, all of which would become hallmarks of the successful buddy cop formula. The disadvantage of being one of the first at anything is that people who come after you may succeed more spectacularly and get more recognition for perfecting the formula. Lethal Weapon's enormous cultural impact and the multiple sequels it spawned meant that it became the reference point for buddy cop movies, while Running Scared faded somewhat from public memory despite earning over $38 million at the box office and receiving praise for Crystal and Hines' chemistry. Today, Running Scared is rarely mentioned when film fans discuss the best buddy cop movies of the 1980s, even though it contributed important elements to the genre and proved that unconventional casting choices could work beautifully in action comedies.